Rex thought retirement in Lakeside Crossing would mean morning coffee, quiet weekends, and anonymity. Instead, he was greeted by a woman with a clipboard and a tape measure. It had only been 3 days since Rex McAllister moved into the quiet cul-de-sac, and already he could tell this wasn't going to be the low-profile life he'd envisioned. He'd picked the neighborhood for its silence, the kind of silence you could drink with your morning cup of black coffee. He was on the porch that morning, holding that exact cup, ceramic and scuffed with an old Marine Corps logo, when he saw her coming down the sidewalk like she owned the concrete. She stopped at his mailbox, pulled out a small tape measure from her bag, and began noting something on her clipboard. Rex squinted, lowered his paper, and took a sip. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone dry but not impolite. She looked up, flashed a practiced smile. "Just checking compliance. Mailboxes should be no more than 42 inches off the ground." He raised an eyebrow. "I see. And you are?" "Karen Holloway," she said with unshakable certainty. "President of the Lakeside Crossing Homeowners Association." That explained the clipboard and the tone. Rex stood, set his cup on the small iron table beside his chair, and walked down the steps with the kind of quiet calm you learn from too many years in places you're not supposed to be. "I'm Rex, just moved in." Karen's eyes flicked to his garage door, double reinforced, smooth titanium alloy panels with no external handle and a biometric scanner disguised as a garage light. Her smile thinned. "Interesting design," she said. "Is it commercial grade?" "It's private," Rex replied, "and certified by the city." Karen didn't like that answer. He could tell. She made a note on her clipboard and walked off with a stiff nod. That was Monday. By Wednesday, he'd received a formal HOA notice taped to his door citing unusual humming noise during nighttime hours. It was the diagnostic system on his backup battery core. Not loud, certainly not outside city decibel limits, but steady, rhythmic. Rex adjusted the schedule just to be neighborly. On Friday, another notice arrived, this one about unauthorized refuse containers, his reinforced trash bins, which were lined with fire-retardant material and retrofitted with locking lids. He'd built them years ago for areas with frequent raccoon problems. The third complaint came Sunday. Non-conforming landscaping, it read. Apparently, gravel paths didn't count as proper mulch under the HOA's vague aesthetic guidelines. That one he ignored. By the end of the week, Rex was on a first-name basis with most of the HOA's complaint system. Neighbors had started to notice. Mr. Hollier, 2 doors down, gave Rex a slow nod one morning while walking his dog, then muttered, "She's always like that." Sheila, from across the street, brought over a peach cobbler and whispered, "Don't mind Karen. She thinks she's running a gated community." The odd glances toward his garage began piling up. Kids riding their bikes slowed down in front of it. One afternoon, he overheard a teenage boy tell his friend, "That's the tech cave. Bet it's got a robot butler inside." It would have made Rex laugh if it weren't so close to the truth. By the time the monthly HOA meeting rolled around, Karen had a new agenda item printed in bold. Mandatory Safety Inspection Proposal, Private Garages. The meeting took place in the Lakeside Clubhouse, a beige building that smelled faintly of carpet cleaner and instant coffee. Rex showed up out of courtesy, sat near the back, and said nothing for most of the session. Karen stood at the front with her clipboard, explaining how unregulated garage spaces posed a latent risk to community harmony. She cited unusual wiring, non-disclosed electronic equipment, and potentially hazardous storage. Then she turned to the board. "I propose that all garages be subject to scheduled visual inspections, beginning next month." A few heads turned. Some murmured. Rex calmly raised a hand. "Are you saying the HOA wants to enter private property to check for what exactly? Secret robot armies?" Some laughed. Karen didn't, her jaw set like rebar in concrete. "We're talking about community safety," she said. "Transparency builds trust." Rex folded his arms. "So does respecting private boundaries." After the meeting, she gave him a long, quiet stare in the parking lot. No clipboard this time, just narrowed eyes and the quiet certainty of someone convinced they were doing the right thing. Later that evening, Rex walked into his garage and closed the door behind him. He stood still for a moment, letting the sensors scan. The lights glowed on, row by row, revealing a sleek, orderly space filled with locked cases, workbenches, and diagnostic tools. He approached the wall panel and checked the security system log. A few false pings from birds during the day. A temperature fluctuation near the overhead beam, nothing major. Then he tapped the touchscreen once and brought up the internal perimeter grid. He ran a quick diagnostic. The laser tripwires hummed softly, aligning into position. The display flashed. Level 2, passive net defense, system armed. The green light blinked once, then twice. By the end of the week, HOA residents received a flyer in their mailbox. Title, Community Safety Alert. Do you know what's in that garage? The paper was printed on bright yellow stock with bold red ink, folded twice like a church newsletter, but dripping with paranoia. Rex read it once, then again, then folded it carefully and set it next to his coffee. Across the street, he saw Sheila squinting at her own copy, mouthing the title like she couldn't believe what she was reading. Karen hadn't just survived her Crisco-laced crawl through his garage. She'd weaponized it. The flyer accused an unnamed homeowner, but showed a grainy photo of Rex's driveway, of housing potentially militarized equipment, unregistered drone activity, and, his personal favorite, oral disturbances consistent with underground testing. The HOA clubhouse was fuller than usual that evening. Folding chairs lined the perimeter, leaving a narrow aisle down the center. There was lemonade in a plastic dispenser, a tray of oatmeal cookies, and an awkward tension floating above the room like summer humidity before a storm. Rex arrived early, as always. He took a seat in the front row, nodding politely to a few neighbors. No one sat beside him. Karen stood at the projector with her clipboard, glasses perched low on her nose. She cleared her throat and clicked the remote. The first slide popped up in Comic Sans. "Who is he?" The room went still. "I've lived in Lakeside Crossing for 12 years, she began. "I've served as HOA president for 6. Never in all that time have I seen anything like this." She clicked again. A blurry photo filled the screen. Rex's garage, taken from behind a bush. It was tilted, dark, and mostly obstructed by tree limbs. "What are we really looking at here?" she asked the crowd. Infrared lights, custom locks, windows blacked out year-round. And now, audio recordings, strange thumps, electronic beeps, and coded phrases. Something is happening inside that garage. She clicked again. A short, silent video played. A shaky view of the garage door, then a shadow moving across the interior. No audio, no context. Karen stepped aside and addressed the board directly. "I believe this resident is operating a private weapons lab. I move that we initiate an emergency inspection under the HOA Safety Clause 9B. Few neighbors shifted in their seats. One man coughed. Sheila looked like she was holding back a laugh. Rex raised a hand. Calm, clear. "I'd like to respond." The board nodded. Karen crossed her arms. He stood. "A week ago, Miss Holloway entered my garage uninvited at 2 a.m. She bypassed security systems, slipped on an epoxy floor, and accused me of bomb-making because she saw a smart wrench." Karen flushed red. "I have footage of the entire event," Rex continued. "Thermal imaging, timestamps, and voice logs. The city has already reviewed the materials and found nothing illegal." Someone from the back whispered, "Wait, she broke in?" Karen spoke up. "It wasn't breaking in. It was investigative oversight." Rex didn't flinch. "There's more." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder, handing it to the board. Inside were printed screenshots. Karen, in gloves, stuffing a paintball gun and a plastic toy grenade into a cardboard box behind her garage. The next image, her slipping into a recycling bin while trying to stage the drop-off. Karen lunged toward the front. "This is fake." The treasurer leaned forward, squinting at the photo. "That's your fanny pack, Karen, the one with glitter letters?" "She needs help," someone murmured. Laughter rippled through the room. Karen stepped back, trembling, fists clenched. She stared at Rex with a look that was less hatred now and more disbelief, as if the reality of her own unraveling had only just reached her. "I won't be silenced," she hissed. "The truth will come out." She turned and stormed out of the clubhouse, leaving the door to swing shut behind her. The board didn't say much after that. No vote was taken. The cookies sat untouched. Back home, Rex set his briefcase down and poured himself a fresh cup of coffee. He stood by the window, watching the porch lights flicker on across the street, one by one. Then he picked up his phone and opened a message thread labeled Ramirez. He typed, "She crossed the line. Time to bring in Ramirez," and hit send. Folding chairs, lemonade pitchers, name tags. No one expected a live security demonstration with lasers. By the time Rex arrived at the clubhouse, the air inside was already thick with anticipation and iced citrus. The folding tables were lined with promotional pamphlets titled Home Defense in the 21st Century, while neighbors milled around with paper cups in hand, pretending to read while sneaking glances toward the curtained-off presentation space. Someone whispered, "I heard he's got robot dogs," while another murmured, "The city approved this?" Really? Karen was there too, pacing near the refreshments table in a blazer a little too tight and a stare a little too sharp. Her lips moved, quietly counting heads, as if trying to measure support before the show even began. At the front of the room stood a small platform, unassuming but clean. Rex didn't step up. He waited in the wings while Ramirez handled the crowd with practiced ease. "Good evening, everyone," Ramirez began, flashing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He wore khakis and a tucked-in polo. Nothing flashy, but there was something about his posture that hinted at former uniforms and briefing rooms. "My name is Lieutenant Ramirez. I serve with the Tactical Infrastructure and Civilian Integration Program. Tonight's demonstration is part of a pilot initiative focused on residential safety, how to protect your home, your family, and your privacy." Karen let out a soft scoff, but Ramirez ignored it. He gestured toward a display table where two of his associates were setting up a biometric lock rig. "This," he said, "is a civilian-grade locking system with multi-layer verification. Designed for safety, not secrecy." The room murmured approvingly. Then came the drone detection module, sleek, silent, and now humming gently as it swept for signals. The screen behind Ramirez lit up with a live radar-style overlay. A red blip blinked in the top right corner. He tapped it. "This," he said, "is an unauthorized device signal. We intercepted something like it earlier this month, homemade, broadcasting from a mobile phone app interface. That kind of thing is not only illegal in most counties, it's potentially dangerous." Karen stiffened visibly. Ramirez didn't call her out by name. He didn't need to. And then, the final piece. Rex stepped forward quietly and held up a slim remote. At his cue, the floor panel opened with a gentle hiss. Out rolled a circular robot the size of a dinner plate, polished and silent. It scanned the crowd, extended a tiny mechanical arm, and projected a soft blue hologram that read, "Neighborhood Watch 2.0. This garage is safer than your house." The room burst into laughter. Even the HOA treasurer chuckled. Karen shot to her feet. "That's a direct threat." Ramirez lifted a calming hand. "No, ma'am. It's a certified model designed for motion awareness, not aggression. We're here to educate, not intimidate." Karen's voice shook. "He's hiding something. He stole surveillance footage from me?" A few people glanced around uncomfortably. Ramirez remained composed. "Mr. McAllister's systems have been reviewed at both city and state levels. His facility meets every compliance code, and I'll add, his ability to detect and identify unauthorized surveillance is why we invited him to consult on our civilian defense infrastructure." That landed, like a soft punch to the air around Karen's shrinking presence. He continued, slower now. "Illegal surveillance within the neighborhood has been flagged. Names aren't necessary." The air seemed to shift. Heads turned, not just toward Karen, but away from her. Disbelief was giving way to something colder. Disappointment. She sat down, jaw locked, fingers digging into her armrest. The demonstration ended without drama. A few neighbors clapped. Others approached Rex to ask questions, not with suspicion, but curiosity. Someone asked if the robot came in different colors. Another wondered if the biometric lock could be installed on a wine cellar. Even the HOA president offered a soft, impressive work as Rex packed up. That night, back at home, the system chirped at 11:42 p.m. Rex tapped the screen. A biometric mismatch alert. The east perimeter. He zoomed in. Karen, again. She was climbing the lattice by the porch with a borrowed ladder and a manila envelope clutched in one hand. Her hoodie was pulled low, but her sunglasses were back, useless in the dark. She stopped at the edge of the garage and reached for the keypad. The scanner lit up red. The system flashed. Unauthorized. Retinal not recognized. And then the lights pulsed. She flinched, but instead of running, she held up the envelope, muttered something, and backed down the ladder slowly, like she hadn't just broken several local trespassing laws. Rex didn't move. He just let the system log it, and let the night resume its quiet. Karen filed a lawsuit for emotional trauma. Rex brought 3 terabytes of camera footage and a USB labeled Exhibit A+. The courtroom wasn't exactly a grand hall of justice. It was more like a forgotten community room in the back of a municipal building, its beige walls lined with outdated safety posters and a flickering exit sign. The judge, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a stack of traffic citations beside her, adjusted her reading glasses as the clerk called the case. Karen Holloway versus Rex McAllister. Claim of emotional distress, small claims court. Karen rose quickly. She wore a navy blazer too stiff for the summer heat and clutched a binder that looked like it had been reassembled with duct tape and hope. She walked to the plaintiff's table with the urgency of someone trying to outrun their own logic. Rex followed behind at an even pace. No briefcase, no lawyer. Just a folder, a USB drive, and a letter with the city seal visible through the envelope's plastic window. The judge glanced between them. "Ms. Holloway, you're representing yourself?" "I am, Your Honor," Karen said, setting her binder on the table with a satisfying thump. "And I intend to prove this man has systematically tormented me with illegal surveillance systems, emotionally manipulative security measures, and digital aggression." "Digital aggression?" the judge echoed, raising an eyebrow. Karen opened the binder and pulled out screenshots of the neighborhood group chat. "I've been called names, humiliated. People posted jokes about me. One person even referred to me as Karen Bot." The judge looked unimpressed. "You're claiming emotional trauma based on online messages you were not directly sent?" "And harassment," Karen snapped. "He installed a device that sprayed me with mist, deliberately." Rex didn't speak. He simply slid the USB across the table, followed by a printed chain of city permits, including the certification for prototype civilian systems, a record of the HOA-approved safety demonstration, and a signed letter from Lieutenant Ramirez attesting to their cooperation. The judge inserted the USB into a laptop. A video clip began to play. Karen was on screen, approaching Rex's garage at night with a ladder and a manila envelope. The footage was crisp. Thermal overlays, biometric flags, time-stamped entries. The mist activation was triggered by her motion, not by any targeted function. The automated voice from the system could be heard clearly. Unauthorized access detected. Please step away. The judge paused the video. So this sprinkler system is what you claim caused emotional trauma? Karen stiffened. It said my name. The judge leaned back slowly. You're alleging that a voice-activated deterrent system, legally installed and approved by municipal authorities, constitutes personal harassment because it addressed you? It was humiliating, Karen insisted. And how exactly did he obtain your name? Karen floundered. He must have recorded me. Secretly. The judge turned to Rex. Mr. McAllister, how did your system acquire the plaintiff's name? Rex remained seated, calm. The system uses motion-based prompts. If a name is spoken aloud more than twice during a perimeter breach, it adds the name to the custom alert log. Karen shouted her own name during 2 previous incidents. The judge pinched the bridge of her nose. Do you have documentation of that? Rex nodded. It's in the metadata, time-coded. Karen opened her mouth, but the judge raised a hand. Let me get this straight, the judge said slowly. You are accusing this man of harassment using a sprinkler system? Karen didn't answer. The judge picked up her gavel. This court finds no merit in the claim. Case dismissed. And ma'am, Karen looked up, you may want to reconsider approaching highly secured garages uninvited. The gavel came down with a dull thud. The courtroom emptied quietly, but not before Rex caught a few chuckles behind him. Sheila was there in the back row, whispering something to Mr. Hallier, who shook his head in disbelief. Karen remained frozen at the table, binder limp in her hands, eyes flickering back and forth like she was trying to locate the moment everything had gone wrong. Rex exited without a word. Later that afternoon, back at home, he unlocked his mailbox and found a slim envelope with a city seal embossed at the corner. Inside was a formal letter printed on thick cream paper. Dear Mr. McAllister, your contributions to neighborhood safety and public engagement during the recent demonstration have not gone unnoticed. We would like to invite you to join the city's Civilian Advisory Council for Residential Tactical Safety Initiatives. Respectfully, Office of Public Safety Commission. Rex read it twice. Then he folded it neatly and slid it into the kitchen drawer next to a small stack of unused drone parts. The neighborhood was shifting, and he wasn't just part of the background anymore. The man once called that weird garage guy was now the guest of honor at the HOA potluck. It was the last Saturday of July, and the cul-de-sac of Lakeside Crossing had transformed into something almost charming. Folding tables lined the curb. Kids rode bikes between lawn chairs. The smell of smoked brisket floated on the air, courtesy of Mr. Hallier, who manned a borrowed grill like it was a national duty. A row of cupcakes, each topped with a tiny edible drone, sat proudly on a makeshift dessert station marked Operation Neighborhood Thanks. Rex stood near the edge of the party, a paper plate in one hand, the other tucked into his back pocket. He wasn't used to being the center of attention, much less being thanked for anything. But today, he wasn't just the man with the titanium garage. He was the one who kept the neighborhood sane, safe, calm. Try this, Sheila said, handing him a slice of her infamous lemon pie. I didn't add salt this time. He smiled. Still brave of you to test it on me first. She winked. You've survived drones and court. You'll survive citrus. A murmur ran through the crowd as the new HOA board members stepped forward, holding a laminated certificate on gold-trimmed cardstock. The president, a younger man who had previously refused to make eye contact with Rex, cleared his throat. We wanted to do this properly, he said. So on behalf of Lakeside Crossing, we present you with this. He held it out with both hands. Honorary HOA Defense Consultant, Defender of Garages, Protector of Privacy. There was light applause. Someone whooped. Rex accepted it with a nod. He didn't give a speech. He just walked over to a small platform he'd quietly set up that morning and waved at the kids to gather. "Want to see something fun?" he asked. They cheered. He tapped a button. A gentle mist hissed up from the grass near his mailbox. The vapor hung in the air like a cloud of silk catching the sunlight. "This," he said, "is the Karen cloud. It's a motion sensor, mostly harmless. It just lets you know when someone's getting a little too curious." One child squealed with delight and ran straight through it. The mist turned blue for a second and gave off a soft chime. The other kids followed, giggling as they took turns triggering the cloud like it was a game. The adults laughed, even the HOA board. It was, in some way, Rex's perfect kind of justice. Quiet, non-lethal, slightly ridiculous. Then came the twist. In the middle of the event, while people were still chatting over lemonade and comparing lawn chairs, a movement near Rex's fence caught his eye. Karen, in broad daylight, wearing all black like a burglar in a cartoon, she crept toward the side gate with a ladder she'd clearly borrowed. In one hand, she held another manila envelope. Rex didn't move. The system, however, had evolved. As soon as her foot touched the gravel outside the gate, a pleasant chime sounded from the speaker mounted just above. "Hi, Karen. This is your third uninvited visit. Local authorities have been notified." Everyone froze. Karen, too. She looked around as if hoping someone would leap to her defense. No one did. Within minutes, a patrol car eased around the corner. The officer stepped out casually, no rush, no tension. He looked at Karen, then walked over to Rex with a half-apologetic smile. "She says it's a defamation claim," he said, holding up the envelope. "You want it?" Rex took the envelope, held it for a second, then handed it back. "Toss it in the bin. I've got a sprinkler to tune." The officer chuckled, gave him a nod, and walked off, leading Karen gently by the elbow. She didn't fight. She didn't speak. She just went. The rest of the evening passed like a cool breeze. More pie, more laughter. A young couple new to the neighborhood asked if Rex could help them install motion lighting. He said sure. They brought cookies, no clipboards. As the sun dipped low and porch lights flicked on, Rex stood at the edge of his driveway, hands in his pockets, watching the street return to peace. Not forced silence, not suspicious quiet, but genuine calm. His garage hummed softly behind him, a quiet sentinel no one feared anymore. Not because it had changed, but because everyone finally understood why it was built. On a quiet summer evening, the same garage that once stirred suspicion now stood as a symbol of resilience and quiet strength. What began as isolation turned into a story of clarity, where truth was its own defense and calm conviction carried the day. Sometimes justice doesn't need noise. It just needs a good record and a little patience. In a world full of overreach and assumptions, protecting what's yours with grace can speak louder than any protest. Like a well-built fence around a cherished garden, peace is something you tend with intention, and it flourishes when the community chooses trust over fear.